In 2008, during an interview with ABC, Beyoncé revealed something that made even her most loyal fans uncomfortable. "When I'm on stage, I'm not me. I turn into Sasha Fierce." The statement could have passed as just another artistic allegory, a reflection on the duality between person and performer. But what came next lifted a veil over a darker side of her career. In videos, performances, and even behind the scenes, repetitive elements began to appear, symbols, gestures, and patterns that seemed carefully placed. With each new performance, the feeling grew that something was being enacted there, but not for the general public. Eyes, pyramids, numbers, and choreographies with hidden meanings began to be identified by students of symbology, conspiracy theorists, and even unsuspecting viewers. And while the glare of the spotlight continued to overshadow the questions, some people dedicated themselves to documenting every strange detail, every unsettling repetition, every appearance of Sasha Fierce. Was Beyoncé really just channeling an artistic persona? Or is there something much bigger and much older being enacted before millions without them realizing it? Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I'm Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for your help. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's just a click, but it makes a huge difference in helping YouTube deliver the videos to more people and allowing me to keep bringing this content to you. I'm counting on you. Let's get into the video. Have you ever noticed how, in certain shows, Beyoncé's expression changes in an almost frightening way? It's not just a matter of posture or choreography. It's as if someone else is there. This isn't just an impression. In 2008, the singer herself gave a name to that change, Sasha Fierce. At first, it could have been just another artistic alter ego, like so many others in the music world. But what came along with Sasha was something different and disturbing. In an interview, Beyoncé didn't hesitate. "When I'm on stage, I'm not me. I transform." She describes Sasha as an entity that takes over, that assumes control. Many artists talk about getting into character, but rarely with that level of surrender. And what's more curious, she doesn't speak as if she controls Sasha, but as if she's dominated by her. This, of course, caught the attention of those who study symbology, occultism, and even spirituality. After all, what kind of transformation is this? The change isn't just in the words. It's in the gaze, the way she sings, the movements. There are videos where you can clearly see the switch flip. 1 second, she's focused, smiling. The next, her eyes narrow, her body stiffens, and her face takes on an almost aggressive expression. Is this natural? Or is it rehearsed to the point of seeming instinctive? Or, going deeper, could it be the manifestation of something that isn't exactly Beyoncé? Sasha isn't just a name on an album. She developed her own identity. And when you start revisiting the music videos and promotional covers from that era, you notice they're filled with strange symbolism. Mirrors, single eyes, stylized inverted crosses, ritualistic geometric shapes. None of this is accidental. Some might say it's just aesthetics. But why do the same symbols appear in different phases, different tours, different contexts? In 2010, Beyoncé stated that she had killed Sasha Fierce. But if you follow her shows after that, you'll notice that Sasha's figure is still present, even if unnamed. The performance continues with the same elements, the same abrupt behavioral transitions, the same gestures, the same vacant stares followed by almost animalistic expressions. The persona was abandoned, but the pattern never disappeared. And that's where a theory begins to gain traction. According to occultism scholars, when a figure is repeated with intensity, surrounded by symbols and reverence, it can become an egregore, an entity created by collective energy. And think about it, millions of people around the world sing, imitate, and celebrate Sasha Fierce. Could that be enough to bring to life something that started as an idea? And if so, would Beyoncé still have control over it? The goal here isn't to claim that Beyoncé practices magic, but to show that many of the elements associated with Sasha have roots in ancient rituals. In various spiritual traditions, there are accounts of conscious possession, where a body is offered as a channel for something greater. And many rituals are public, performative, involving music, dance, screams, and rhythm. Sound familiar? The stage, in this context, becomes an altar. The performance, a rite. And the audience, part of a ceremony without realizing they're participating. When Beyoncé makes the pyramid gesture with her hands, a gesture she repeats relentlessly, is it really just a reference to her label? Or is there something more behind that upward-pointing triangle, so similar to the all-seeing eye? You might think it's an exaggeration, but how many artists do you know who describe their own performances as if they were possessed? And more, how many continue to display the same behaviors even after abandoning the supposed alter ego? If Sasha was buried, why does she still appear, in essence, in almost every major moment of Beyoncé's career? And it doesn't stop there. There are reports from fans who describe strange sensations during specific performances. Chills, atmospheric pressure, feelings that arise without explanation. Coincidence? Suggestion? Maybe. But when there are signs everywhere, it becomes impossible not to start connecting the dots. What lingers is an unsettling question. Did Sasha Fierce really disappear? Or are we just witnessing a new form of her? More subtle, more refined, but still alive behind the scenes of every show, waiting for the next invocation? Some images are so recurrent that they end up going unnoticed. A triangle with an eye in the center, for example. You've seen this symbol on album covers, in the set design of major concerts, in costume details, and you may have never stopped to think about it. But when that same symbol appears multiple times throughout the career of a single artist, always in specific moments, the question changes. Why is it there? In Beyoncé's music videos, especially starting with Single Ladies, there's a clear visual shift. More somber colors, empty settings, heavy use of shadows and silhouettes. In Run the World, Girls, we see a true parade of military symbols, pyramids in the background, and choreographies that seem more like coordinated invocations. Nothing there feels random. And if it's not random, what is being communicated? The video for Formation, for example, blends religious aesthetics with social critique, but among the takes, there are quick, almost subliminal scenes showing crosses, ritualistic poses, and references to ancient female deities. In other videos, like Haunted or Mine, the use of masks, veils, and mirrors creates an atmosphere that evokes occult practices and spiritual initiations. And then you ask yourself, is all of this just art, or also symbolic language? The all-seeing eye, a central symbol in Freemasonry and so-called Esoteric Illuminism, appears more than once, both graphically and suggested in choreographies. In the Sweet Dreams video, for instance, an inverted pyramid lights up behind Beyoncé. In Grown Woman, there's a quick sequence in which eyes are drawn on her hands, something common in rituals to symbolize spiritual vision. What's curious is that these details are almost never addressed publicly, not by her nor her team. You might think they're just coincidences, but the constant repetition of these symbols points to something more, a deliberate construction. In any visual system, repetition is a way to fix an idea. And if the idea being fixed isn't conscious to the viewer, it still works on the subconscious. This is called symbolic communication, and it's been used for centuries, from ancient temples to modern advertising. During live performances, the symbols leave the visual plane and gain movement. In performances like the 2013 Super Bowl, Beyoncé appears amidst triangle-shaped lights, surrounded by dancers in symmetrical patterns, with visual effects that create the illusion of duplication, almost as if multiple versions of herself are being projected. Is this just a futuristic aesthetic, or is there an intention behind multiplying her image before millions? The idea of symbolic multiplication is known in many occult traditions as mirroring, a way to propagate an idea or essence through repetition. When a public figure constantly projects the same symbols and gestures, it's as if that is being rooted in collective consciousness. And if Beyoncé has been doing this for over a decade, what exactly is being implanted? Another important element is the use of light. In many performances, she appears in darkness, lit from below, or surrounded by beams of light in geometric shapes. In ancient rituals, lighting had a spiritual function, often used to mark the presence of something. It's strange to think about that in the context of a pop show, but when patterns are repeated with such precision, maybe it's not that strange after all. In 2016, during her performance at the BET Awards, Beyoncé began the number Immersed in Water, with symbolic fire and an almost tribal soundtrack. In the background, shapes of light seemed to form eyes and crosses amid the smoke. The audience applauded, unaware of how much that scene resembled an initiation ritual. We're talking about a nationally broadcast event, and no one questioned it. And it's not just visual symbols. Hand gestures like forming a triangle or pointing a finger upward while staring directly into the camera also carry meanings. In occultism, such gestures are called mudras, and are used to direct energy or communicate intention. If all of this is being done repeatedly, in performances seen by millions, can it still be considered just an aesthetic choice? The lack of an official explanation only fuels the mystery. When confronted with these interpretations, Beyoncé has never confirmed them, but she's also never directly denied them. The silence, in this case, becomes louder than any answer. After all, why not clarify something that sparks so much speculation? And the most intriguing part is realizing that these symbols don't appear randomly. They emerge at the most powerful moments of the shows, at dramatic turns, visual climaxes, bursts of energy, as if each symbol were a key. But a key to unlock what? There's something almost no one notices when watching a show: the gestures. Not the dance moves, not the main choreography. I'm talking about those quick, subtle signals that often go unnoticed, but that are repeated with near ritualistic precision in Beyoncé's biggest performances. And the question that won't go away is, why repeat something that almost no one sees? If you've ever seen Beyoncé form a triangle with her hands in the middle of a song, you might have thought it looked stylish. If you saw her cover one eye with her arm or spread her fingers in a symbolic shape, you might have assumed it was just part of the performance. But what if these gestures are messages, visual codes, or even parts of something greater that only makes sense to those who know how to read it? These signals appear most strongly during high-energy moments. When the beat drops, when the crowd reaches its peak, that's when the gestures show up, discreet yet intense, almost like commands. And the pattern is so specific that fans and researchers have been mapping these repetitions over the years. In different videos, at concerts in different countries, Beyoncé repeats the exact same movements. Is it coincidence or part of a hidden script? In various religions and spiritual practices, gestures are used to direct energy or invoke protection. In Hinduism and Buddhism, for instance, there are mudras, specific hand positions that channel invisible forces. In Western occultism, there are magical signs used to activate symbols. It may seem far removed from pop culture, but what if these ancient codes are being used today, live on stage? During her Coachella performance, one specific moment stood out. Beyoncé closes her eyes, tilts her head back, and forms a geometric shape over her body with her arms. The gesture lasts only seconds, but is repeated in other performances. On another occasion, she raises her left hand, fingers spread in a V shape, while slowly turning her body. It's beautiful to watch, but why always the same gestures? And it doesn't stop there. Some of these signals are made when the stage lights go out for a moment. The camera cuts away, the focus shifts to the dancers or the big screen. And in that moment, between one flash and another, the movements occur. Why hide it? Or better yet, why show it to those who aren't paying attention? There are online groups dedicated exclusively to cataloging these gestures. They pause videos, zoom in on frames, and compare each movement to records of ancient rituals. In many cases, the resemblance is uncanny. A gesture in a pop video could be the same used in old ceremonies to banish unwanted influences. Another might represent channeling power. Is it possible that Beyoncé knows all these meanings? Or is she following a choreography crafted by others? The dancers follow the same patterns too. In specific performances, there are choreographed sequences where everyone makes similar gestures around the singer, as if they're sealing something, invoking, or activating a central energy. Could this be just an aesthetic coincidence? Or does it carry a symbolic charge that the audience, hypnotized by the music, never notices? And there's something even more curious. Beyoncé's gestures change depending on where the show is. In countries where the audience is more tuned into these symbolic discussions, the signals are more subtle. But on American stages, especially at major award shows, the movements are more explicit. This shows awareness of the impact. And it raises another question. Is there a coded messaging pattern tailored to different audiences? Some theories suggest these gestures are part of an internal language within the entertainment industry, a language that connects certain artists to specific ideologies or alliances. The idea might sound far-fetched, but think about it. Why would someone follow a symbolic pattern that the majority of the public doesn't recognize? What's the point of using signs that only a few will understand? These codes might not be for us. They might be for those behind the scenes, or for something beyond the scenes. It's as if each gesture were a signal, a reminder, a signature, and every time she performs them, she's saying, "I'm still here. I still know." And that's where the uncomfortable silence settles in. Is all of this just art? Or are we witnessing a secret language being spoken in broad daylight and simply ignoring it? You know those major events broadcast to the whole world, like the Grammys, the Super Bowl, or the VMAs. Millions watch, cheer, sing along, but few really pay attention to what's happening beyond the music and lights. Now, imagine if these stages weren't just places for spectacle, but rather the execution of symbolic rituals, carefully choreographed to look like mere performances. Sounds like an exaggeration? Then brace yourself. Let's go back to the 2017 Grammys. Beyoncé appears wearing a golden crown, a translucent tunic, and a tilted chair resembling the divine thrones seen in ancient sculptures. The staging is clearly inspired by religious icons, particularly from Yoruba and Egyptian cultures. During the performance, she simulates a kind of rebirth, surrounded by dancers who revere her. This isn't just art. The structure resembles ceremonial practices from ancestral cults. But why bring that to a global stage? The official explanation refers to a representation of femininity and ancestry. Fair enough. But those who look closer notice something beyond aesthetics. Every step, every gesture has symmetry. The light falls in a controlled way on specific points of her body, and the soundtrack carries beats reminiscent of mantras. In many traditions, that type of sonic repetition is used to induce altered states of consciousness. So what exactly is being induced here? This type of layered symbolic performance is not isolated. At the 2013 Super Bowl, for example, Beyoncé delivered a show with pyramid-shaped lighting, multiple projections of herself forming a living mandala, and intense close-ups of a single eye. The climax of the performance coincided with a burst of light that, for a split second, formed the image of an inverted five-pointed star on the stage. Was it intentional? Was it a coincidence? Or are we looking at a repeating pattern? In 2016, at the same event, she returned with a performance that visually resembled a military parade more than a pop concert. Black uniforms, rhythmic marching, and once again, symbols of power displayed at key moments. The hand signs were there, the lights flashing in triangular sequences as well, all with surgical precision. And you watch it thinking it's just entertainment. In various videos, symbology analysts point out how these major events follow a structure that's almost liturgical. An opening with silence or darkness, the emergence of the main star, the public's acclaim, the presence of intense light, and a symbolic image to close. For many ancient cultures, this constitutes a complete ritual. Now think, if this happens every year for billions of people, what's the real purpose? These events also mark passage moments in artists' careers. Many of them undergo radical changes in style, behavior, or message right after performing on these stages. Coincidence? Maybe. But maybe these rituals aren't just portraying something. Maybe they're sealing something. Sealing pacts? Sealing phases? What exactly is being established before millions? You've seen artists come out of these events more powerful than ever. But you've also seen others disappear mysteriously. The ones who seem to want to break away from what these stages represent. Some even give cryptic interviews, suggesting that there's something wrong in the industry, that there are forces controlling things behind the curtain. And shortly after, silence. Beyoncé has never openly talked about this, but she continues following the same symbolic pattern. What's interesting is that, unlike other artists who change over time, she seems more stable, as if she found a formula, or perhaps a specific role within this system. And the more her presence grows, the more sophisticated and symbolic her performances become. Is that artistic evolution, or something else? And there's more, the audience. During these performances, cameras capture people crying, hypnotized, ecstatic. Of course, that could be emotion, but in rituals, that's exactly the goal, to generate an intense emotional response. That state of vulnerability is ideal for symbols and messages to be absorbed more easily. The question is, who is conducting this orchestra? This is where entertainment stops being just fun. When aesthetics align with symbolism, and the stage resembles more a temple than an arena, we must ask, what is really being performed? And for whom? Because maybe while the audience cheers and enjoys themselves, something is being invoked, fed, or perpetuated right before our eyes. Amid so many visual symbols and choreographed gestures, there's a numerical detail that often goes unnoticed, the number 4. And here, we're not just talking about coincidences. This number is everywhere in Beyoncé's life and career, repeated so often that it ceases to be a mere personal preference and becomes a silent signature. The question is, what does the number 4 really represent? To begin with, Beyoncé was born on September 4th. Her husband, Jay-Z, was born on December 4th. They got married on April 4th. Their daughter, Blue Ivy, has the name for in Roman numerals tattooed on her parents' fingers. And as if that weren't enough, Beyoncé released an album simply titled 4. That's a lot to be just a favorite number, don't you think? Numerology, an ancient practice that studies the hidden meanings of numbers, associates 4 with structure, stability, and construction. It's the number of the foundation, the 4 elements earth, water, fire, and air, the 4 directions north, south, east, west, and manifestation in the physical plane. But in certain esoteric traditions, 4 is also a ritual number, the number of the magic square of ritualistic solidity. That might sound distant, but when you look at how often Beyoncé evokes this number, the mystery deepens. Kabbalah, the mystical system associated with Jewish tradition, also places importance on the number 4. It speaks of 4 spiritual worlds representing levels of existence: emanation, creation, formation, and action. The descent of divine energy from the abstract to the physical world. And if that logic is being used, even symbolically, by an artist who controls every visual and conceptual aspect of her career, then the number 4 might be far more than just a whim. On stage, Beyoncé has performed many times with choreographic formations based on 4 directions, for central dancers, or stage designs with square-based divisions. In some interviews, she says that 4 brings balance and peace. But is that all? Or does she understand the deeper symbolic value this number holds in occult traditions? The number is also present in strategic dates and releases. The 4 album was released on June 24th, and when adding the digits of the date, 2 plus 4 plus 6, you get 12, which reduces to 3, but if you combine it with the month 6, the total becomes 4 again using the Pythagorean reduction technique. That might seem like a stretch, but students of numerical symbolism note that these patterns are rarely accidental, especially from artists with total control over their productions. Jay-Z, Beyoncé's partner, also uses the number 4 in his personal symbolism. His album 444 is almost an open letter filled with regrets, confessions, and a shift in mindset. The time 4:44 a.m. was supposedly a moment of spiritual awakening, according to him. Choosing that number as the title raises another question. Does the couple share a personal symbolism or a broader code connected to something greater? There are also records of Beyoncé wearing necklaces, rings, or even costumes featuring the number 4, subtly incorporated into the design. In one case, the number appears embroidered on her shoulder among other symbols. In another, it's the position she takes on stage, at the center of a 4-pointed cross. Is this artistic planning or reverence to a symbolic frequency? And it's not just Beyoncé. Many artists who have been linked to theories about esoteric orders and symbolic control also obsessively repeat certain numbers. For 3, 11, and 33 are the most common. In magical rituals, numbers aren't just measures, they're portals, forms of access, keys to specific frequencies. It may all sound too mystical, until you realize these symbols are always right in front of our eyes. It's curious that the number 4 was also used by secret groups like the Illuminati to represent power stability, especially when visualized as a square, a symbol of dominion over the 4 corners of the world. And if this number is being evoked in public performances, in front of millions of people simultaneously, that could have a collective effect. Have you ever stopped to think about that? What's most unsettling is that no one talks about this pattern. No interviews, no documentaries, no journalist seems to want to touch this point. And maybe that's because, to the world's eyes, numbers are just numbers. But to those who understand how symbolism works, that silence might be part of the ritual. In the end, the number May 4th very well be special to Beyoncé for personal reasons. But the number of times it is repeated, purposefully, carefully, with positioning, leaves room for another possibility. Could this number represent something that goes far beyond her? There's an invisible line that many artists seem afraid to cross. When you speak too much, show too much, try to break the illusion, something happens. Over the years, important figures in music and entertainment have given strange statements, uncomfortable interviews, or suddenly changed their behavior. And more than a few disappeared shortly afterward. Coincidence? Maybe, but the repetition begins to form a pattern. Michael Jackson, for example, in the final years of his life, spoke openly about manipulation in the industry. He even claimed there was a conspiracy against artists who try to maintain control over their work. In a press conference, he declared that record labels control artists like puppets. Not long after came his sudden death, surrounded by controversies and unanswered questions. Kanye West, another name constantly surrounded by controversy, began exposing occult practices in the industry, referencing symbols, rituals, and speaking about selling the soul. In 2022, he stated openly, "You have no idea what's going on behind the curtains." The reaction was immediate: contracts canceled, platforms cutting ties, and his image publicly torn down. Regardless of whether one agrees with the artist or not, the silencing pattern is hard to ignore. Even artists considered mainstream have shown signs that something is off. Katy Perry, in an interview, said that at the beginning of her career she sold her soul. Rihanna, during a concert, was filmed making hand gestures similar to those used by Beyoncé, and soon after, seemed to fall out of rhythm, disoriented. Coincidence? Technical glitch? Or a sudden break in what appeared to be a tightly controlled choreography? Lady Gaga, for her part, once stated that some performances are so intense she feels like she's channeling something greater. She also mentioned attending spiritual cleansing sessions after major tours. If nothing strange is happening, why the need to cleanse? Is it just figurative language, or a sign that there's a heavier dimension behind these shows? Back to Beyoncé, it's interesting to note how she never gives direct answers on these matters. Everything is surrounded by silence or vague statements. She controls her image with extreme precision, almost as if she knows that saying too much would cross a dangerous threshold. And what does that threshold represent? A theory circulated among occult researchers suggests there's a kind of symbolic agreement that artists sign, knowingly or not. It's not just about record deals, but a commitment to symbols, rituals, and coded languages. When these codes are broken or exposed to the public, the system reacts, and it demands a price. Many of the artists who tried to speak out eventually retreat. Some vanish from the media. Others go through radical rebrandings, as if they need to be reborn with a new image, clean and disconnected from past messages. But every time this happens, it feels like something was forcibly erased. And when silence becomes so frequent, it starts to scream. Why does no one talk about this clearly? Why do the same gestures, symbols, and numbers repeat across different artists from different countries, in different styles? We're looking at a visual, behavioral, and even spiritual pattern that crosses borders. And if they're all tied to something greater, who's holding the strings? The veil that covers the entertainment industry might be beautiful, dazzling, glamorous. But every now and then it shifts. And behind it, shadows appear. Signs, codes, and figures who, when trying to pull the curtain back, are pushed into silence. And if Beyoncé continues to be one of the biggest forces within this system, the inevitable question is, does she protect the veil, or does the veil protect her? Maybe in the end, the answer isn't in who speaks, but in who is silenced. For years, Beyoncé has enchanted the world with talent, presence, and charisma. But behind the shine and success, a pattern has formed, made of symbols, gestures, numbers, and carefully aligned silences. Sasha Fierce may have been introduced as just a persona, but the layers behind that figure point to something much larger. From ritualistic performances at global award shows, to the obsessive use of the number 4, through enigmatic gestures and ancient symbolism, it becomes clear we're witnessing a parallel language. A language that doesn't need to be spoken to be understood by those who know what to look for. This story is just one piece, and one day, maybe you'll see the entire puzzle. If this made you think, subscribe, like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share it. After all, more voices mean more discoveries.